The topic today is the miracle of divine guidance. And I, as we go out into this world more and more, we definitely need to be grounded in divine guidance. And that word grounding is so meaningful because I found one definition. It's the act of connecting a high point to a low point so that a process of flow can take place. And what we need to realize is that we can connect to that highest point, the divine, and its inner guidance in us, and trust it to help us maneuver through this world. So, for those of you who are part of the Countdown to Freedom, some of this story might sound familiar to you, but I have a friend who is in a different state and they opened up indoor eating in restaurants this past week. And so within a matter of a couple of days, he was invited out by three different friends and had three different meals in three different restaurants. And at the time, he was feeling peaceful about it and okay with it. But when he got home, he started thinking about it. And that caused him to question himself, to doubt himself, and to wonder, did I make a mistake? So also, we're going out into that world, in a world that is loving to tell us what's the right way to behave. But then as they do more research and gather more information, they're realizing, okay, wait a minute, that's not the best thing to do. Like, we want you to wear a mask, but oh, by the way, don't wear a mask all the time because it'll affect your breathing and all that stuff from the mask. Or, don't go out, but but go out if you have a good reason to go out. Anyway, we're all going out, and it is very possible that in June, our spiritual community, will be meeting again in person, one way or the other. And I'll talk about that more during our announcement phase. We want to get clear about what it is that we are doing because if you're like me, and I can't imagine why you wouldn't be like this, who wants to go back out into the world in fear, looking at people when they sniff, sneeze, or cough, to be worried about this one touched me, that one touched me. I went to my favorite breakfast place yesterday morning, and I was really looking at everybody there, and I thought, wow, people are uh, looking more of a mess than they did a few days ago, and I was probably included in that. I mean, what are who needs this? We want to be in a world that we love to be in, and we want to enjoy our lives completely, love our lives completely, love our world completely. And so we need a way to get out there in the world with peace of mind and with a healthy body, knowing the truth, and to a way to deal with the doubts and the second guessings that come up in us when a well-meaning loved one gives us some advice or makes a comment on what it is that we are doing. So I find spiritual practices or spiritual truths, great spiritual affirmations or great spiritual reasoning, my go-to get by with all of the negative suggestions that get stuck in my own head. So, first of all, let's talk about divine guidance. Whether you believe in an omnipresent, loving being, or whether you believe in somehow there's a higher power or just that still small voice within. Call it intuition. That's it. That's that inner guidance system, and it will and always does guide us. And it's the mental reasoning and figuring it out and trying to, how do I be safe and what do I got to do? That is not divine guidance. That's our rational mind trying to figure it out. And it's intelligent. And I'm not saying ignore it, but divine guidance is that still small voice that says, go, don't go. And it gives no reasons. It just comes, it talks to us at our level of understanding. So for me, it might come up as, I just don't feel like going to that store today. Even though I know I've got to do it and I've got all these things to run, I'm just not in the mood. And then I find out there was a big brouhaha there. So afterwards. So the thing is no one in the world knows what is best for you, but there's something that is creating all of us. It's got a quality called omnipresence, everywhere present. It is an infinite mind that is everywhere present, and it knows everything about us and about everyone else. I laugh as we watch our leaders trying to support us in our health, and they're like, okay, now let's get a tracking device and let's figure out computer wise how to know where everybody is, and we'll know who's had it and who hasn't had it, and everybody's like, yeah, that's the answer, and maybe it is the answer in the world. I don't know. I don't give an opinion as far as that goes, but only omnipresence is omnipresent. Only this divine loving presence knows all and can guide you every step of the way. So I call this presence an infinite mind that is infinitely intelligent, and it knows everything. This infinite mind is the mind that I am using. And this infinite mind knows exactly what is mine to do, where I need to go for the highest and the greatest good of all, which includes my highest and greatest good and my highest and greatest health. So there is an infinite mind, call it that still small voice within, that knows everything and is always giving you on an as need to know it basis, as in now, what is yours to do. Decades ago, I was an atheist. I was an atheist for about 10 years. It was a choice. My life slowly went right, to hell during those 10 years, but I didn't know it at the time. Anyway, divine wisdom was still working in me. And there was one day when I was I was at work and I left the office to walk around the corner to go to my favorite little lunch place. And I was trotting along, and no thought whatsoever. I cannot say why. I just stopped walking. I was stop. And the sign on the building in front of me came crashing down right in front of me. In other words, if I had taken one more step, you would not be looking at me right now. I swear. What was that? That was that still small voice. I didn't even notice the still small voice. I was just and the body stopped walking. So that still small voice, that inner guidance, sometimes just stops us. It just, and there's no discussion about it. There's no emotion about it. It's just, it just, go here, don't go here, no, whatever. So we need to learn to trust it. And one of the things that we also need to get clear about is that this infinite mind that knows everything is also that loving creator that wants us to be happy. And a whole lot of the human race, we're not so sure that God wants us to be happy. The human race really does believe in suffering. So I have the Science of Mind textbook, Dr. Ernest Holmes. My leather-bound copy, someone engraved my name in it, very personal. I was going to save it forever and never write in it, and then it's all whatever. I go through Science of Mind textbooks like every couple of years. I need a fresh one. But anyway, on page 107, he says, and all of you who have read it know what I'm talking about, the heading is, "The world has learned all it should through suffering." And he writes, "The science of mind and spirit makes a tremendous claim when it states that the individual should be free from the bondage of sickness, poverty, and unhappiness. That's what the science of mind teaches, that we have been created to love our lives completely. He goes on, it does, however, carefully set forth the conditions under which freedom operates and the laws governing life, stating in no uncertain terms that unless we understand these conditions and obey these laws, we will not receive the full benefit from the science of mind teaching. So we do have to understand, and one of the, right, we've got two conditions that always must be present in order to know that the divine is with us and for us. And the one first condition is that our desire has to be for greater good, greater health, greater prosperity, greater love, and the good that we desire for ourselves, we want to desire for it all. In other words, the second condition is our good can have no hurt or harm in it for anyone else. Or in other words, it cannot take away the freedom of choice from anyone else. Well, with those two conditions, pretty much anything that you could come up with is obtainable according to the desire of life itself. And so he goes on. The world is beginning. I mean, he wrote this, what, some 100 years ago, just about, right? Beginning. We're still beginning. The world is beginning to realize that it has learned all it should through suffering and pain. Surely, think about this, because as we go out there, I know there are thoughts out there like, maybe it's God's will that I get sick. Maybe I should get sick because I had this mean thought about so-and-so. Maybe it's just punishment. Maybe these doubts and questions that we have, they've got to be dealt with. And so here's what Ernest Holmes says. Surely there can be no intelligence in the universe, intelligence that wishes us to be sick, suffer pain, be unhappy, and end in oblivion. Surely, if God or universal intelligence is imbued with goodness, then it could not ordain that we should ultimately be other than a perfect expression of life. Now, I know for a lot of us, that's a lot to think about, because in my upbringing, I was told and drummed into me that I'm a bad person and you got to watch out what I might do. That devil might get in me and I might be sinning all over the place. And to be presented this idea that I am created in the image and likeness of God out of God's own loving goodness. And if I accept that loving goodness within myself, then I am able, I'm allowed to believe I am good. And that goodness and goodness and goodness is meant for me and for you. That's the way we were divinely designed. And that's what the science of mind teaching is all about. But we need to convince ourselves about that. And, it might take some doing. When I first came into this teaching, I loved the theory. I loved the books. I loved the reading. I loved everything about it. But I would not do a spiritual mind treatment or an affirmative prayer for any good for my personal self. That old religious upbringing I had just said, it doesn't feel right. So I was in this teaching for 5 years before I would start doing spiritual mind treatment for a particular good that I desired. Well, that was many years ago, and I'm fully on board with this idea. So as we go out into the world, what we want to realize is this loving creator wants us to be healthy. And also you can add to that thought that I or you in our journey along, right? We've learned all that there is that we can possibly learn from ill health and from unhappiness and from problems. We've learned all those lessons, and we can learn just as much from happy conditions, from being in glorious health. And also, another spiritual thought to add in here, that divine wants to use us to bring its good into humanity. And we are more useful when we are healthy and happy and well cared for and get enough sleep and are filled with love. We are able to give more of that which is being given to us when we are in our prime condition. And so, of course, the divine wants to use us to bring its love, its laughter, its joy, its prosperity, its goodness to the world of humanity. I had heard years ago that John Rockefeller, the first one, he believed that his reason for receiving so much money was that he was God's wise caretaker of this money. And he had a clergy person advising him as the best way to circulate God's wealth, not his wealth, God's wealth. And he was a big tither too. So we need to get clear that this loving presence wants us to be happy, certainly wants us to be healthy, and its inner guidance system is guiding us to be in the right place at the right time with the right people so that we can be giving the best from the divine in ways and means of health and harmony and goodness. If that doesn't work, you can also set an intention before you leave your home. My intention going out into the world today is good. It is love. It is to do some shopping. And that shopping is good because it will be bringing money to the stores who will be paying the employees and keep everyone happy and well monetized so that everybody is enjoying this life. We're part of this circulation of life. I'm going out there to enjoy nature and to commune with the divine. I'm out there just to be free. All these are good ideas. And so our intention is a divine idea at the very heart of it. And ends and beginnings are identical. And so when we begin with that intention of love or good, even if it's personal good, there's no competition, there's no taking away the good of anyone else in divine intention. And so that desire to be good and enjoy ourselves is an absolutely good desire that we have absolute 100% freedom to enjoy, as long as we don't take away the freedom of choice of anyone else, right? And the ways and means are good. That substance from which we began, that intention, a divine quality of intention, is the substance. And so what it contains is the only thing we can experience as we move along from beginning to end. There was an old saying, I hope it's an old saying, and you still might hear a little bit. People still do believe it somewhere. The ends justify the means. Not a word of truth to it. Ends and means are identical with the beginning. And so stick with the beginning and stay in integrity with yourself and know that which brought you this far is guiding you and bringing you the rest of the way. All right. If that doesn't work, we've got another issue out there, which our particular experience right now is just setting off all those buttons. It's important for each one of us to believe that we are a blessing. So many of us have been told, you're no good, you caused trouble, you made me unhappy, you're the reason why I'm blah, 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 blah. The world loves to do that sort of thing, but there's not a word of spiritual truth to any of it. Everyone is responsible for their own experience of life and living. And what is so awful about this is the factual evidence that I might have it and give it to you. No one wants to be the one that infects other people and hurts other people. We can't live with that. And then the reverse is equally as painful, that belief that someone else can give it to us. Now, we do what is best and what is medically advised, and we wearing the mask and taking the recommended precautions. We dwell in this world. We're a social society. Absolutely, we do, what we need to do, what we believe is best with our mental figuring. But oh my gosh, we cannot let that belief that I can hurt someone else through negligence, through ignorance, or through innocence, or we can't live with it. We can't live with that guilt. We're not designed to live with it. And the good reason for that is we're not. We have to know that we are a blessing to the world. Now, I know we bump into each other. I know we step on each other's toes. We've got the little creatures running all around our streets, and every once in a while, we release one of them to their greater good on another plane of action. And it things like that happen because we live in this relative world, and we're not the consciousness of the ascended masters of all time yet. We do, human beings, believe that we can hurt each other, and it does become an experience for us, but it's not a spiritual truth or necessity. It will continue that we have that experience for as long as human beings believe in it, but that's no reason to believe in it. So even though we do our very best not to poke somebody with our umbrella, or stand too close to someone in a store, to use those social activities and behaviors that are the best advice at the time, or whatever it may end up being, as evidence that we are bad people and that we can hurt and harm others and that they can harm us. We're filled with fear. We're filled with guilt. We cannot live with that. So we have to know that we were created by the divine to bring the divine qualities through to humanity, that we are God's gift to this world, and that others are God's gift to us. And so we do want to go around maybe with our mask on, but behind it, we can be saying, Namaste. Or as I saw, right, meme, Namaste, Namaste. But the divinity in me sees the divinity in you. I love you. I bring you peace. And what you can connect with is back to that divine intention. That divine intention is to bring good to the world, to be good, to bring good, to share your good, that the love, the peace, the harmony, and the health that you are. Your intention is that. And so the means must equal that beginning and the end. And so we want to maybe spiritually brainwash ourselves to know we are blessings to the world. And right now, the divine guidance is telling me, as this blessing, to put this mask on and to stay socially distant from you. And I know that you are doing that, but connect with that intention. Our intention is that we all be healthy and happy and joyous and free. And that, I hope, will sustain me, and maybe that will sustain you as we, continue to jostle each other out there in the world. Say you make a mistake and you do end up back in the world going, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize it. I have a good friend who posted on Facebook that she got out there in the world and she got so excited. You know, there were some restrictions that were opened up, and the next thing she knows, she was like going to the little babies and carriages and going to the people and saying hello. And she was realizing, oh my gosh, I wasn't social distancing, whatever. So, again, if we return home and we have that thought, maybe I shouldn't have, whatever. And, you know, who knows? Maybe you did something and exposed yourself or whatever. Who knows? Maybe you did a oops, not a good idea. Now what? We're still not forsaken because that divine guidance is still with us when we get home and we can start fresh. We, again, I've spoken about this in some of our past talks, that the now moment is the moment of eternal, infinite being. And now the universe is created. The universe didn't get created 20 billion years ago and now it's just rolling itself around. No, no, no. Right now, this omnipresence is creating this universe and everything in it. And in our world, we've been given dominion. And the now moment, not in the past, not that's why we don't have to regret, because oh, I wish I didn't do that because then I wouldn't be here. It doesn't matter. Been there, done that. No, it's now. Now, what do I choose now? And so, boy, that spiritual practice of forgiveness is so valuable right now. Forgive me, God. Right? I made a mistake. I stepped on someone's toes. I hugged someone when I shouldn't have. They didn't like it. As we jostle into each other, we get a second chance, and third chance, and fourth chance, and fifth chance. And the chance is the now moment. In the now moment, we can let that loving presence wipe away the error and start fresh. I like to believe that my choice in this moment overrules the full sum total of all of my choices in the past. And also to realize that this loving creator loves us as much as any of us loves a brand new baby or a brand new little puppy, how much we love them, no matter what they do. And they make mistakes all over the place, but we love about them and we care about them and we want to protect them and keep them safe. And if they make a mistake, we fix it for them. And what we want to realize is this loving presence loves us so much that, yes, we can make a mistake, an error of omission or commission, an error made out of innocence, ignorance, foolishness, or maybe even wrongdoing. We can make a mistake. And yet, when we return to that loving presence and make that decision once again to unite with that universal heart of all goodness and love, and to go forth fresh anew with that intention of goodness and of love, we can be forgiven. We can be forgiven. I want to read to you from 365 Signs of Mine, A Year of Daily Wisdom from Ernest Holmes. He had, I don't know what month was, March 29th. He had a treatment that he gave on divine guidance. So I invite you to take a moment and just let these words of truth sink in. And then I will do a spiritual mind treatment for each one of us. Since the whole secret of divine guidance lies in the ability to accept it, today I affirm that I do accept it. I do believe that the Spirit goes before and prepares my way. I do know that every thought and act is governed and guided by a superior intelligence. There is something in me that knows what to do. It not only knows what to do, it impels me to act upon what it knows. This very acceptance flows forth into action through me. Always there is an inner, quiet, persistent confidence, a non resistant but complete acceptance, an inward flowing with the stream of life, knowing that it carries me safely and surely to my destination and to the accomplishment of every good purpose. This is divine guidance, and I surrender to it. And so this word is now being spoken for each one listening to these words. There is an infinite mind that knows all, and it knows everything there is to know. Omnipresence. And this infinite mind is intelligent, and this infinite mind is a loving presence that desires everything it has created to move from good to greater good, from joy to greater joy, peace to greater peace, love to greater love, harmony, greater harmony, health to greater health. This is the vitality of the living spirit of love within each one, and it knows each one thoroughly and completely. It knows every detail about them. It knows all their nuances. It even knows all their false beliefs. It knows all of each one's stupidities. And knowing all of this, it knows how to move each one, even with all that they've got, from wherever they are to a happier, a healthier, a better place always. And it does this movement. It knows the way to move each one in ways and means of harmony, of love, of peace, of health, of goodness. And so that inner something that is omnipresent knows everything that's going on in the world and knows the best place for each one to be for the highest and greatest good of all and each one's own personal safety, health, and joy. And it is giving its inner guidance signals to each one continuously. Each one is now better able to notice these inner signals, interpret them correctly, and follow them with peace of mind. And wherever there might even be a whole lot of second guessing and questioning, this infinite wisdom guides each one and impels, compels, and propels each one to right action for the highest and greatest good of all, which includes the highest and greatest good of each one. And so each one is able to now go out into this world of humanity. Even now, no matter what may be going on with that entire world and everyone in it, there is a way for each one to go forth in this world. There is a path, moment to moment path of being in the right place at the right time for the greatest good, health, and safety of each one. And each one is listening to that inner wisdom, which is keeping each one on that path, the way, keeping each one in that divine way with that flow of life moving from good to greater good. And so each one is able to go out into the world with the clarity of that divine guidance, fully giving its instructions, its signals, able to follow it joyfully, with confidently, with certainty and trust and with faith, and to come back afterwards and think about it and have that spiritual truth, reason, and talk to each one with crystal clarity. All is okay. Each one is a blessing to this world of humanity, and humanity is God's blessing to them. God is in its heaven. All is right with this world right now for each one to go forth and prosper. And that's the way it is, so that each one is now able to go out into the world and enjoy it even more than they enjoyed it a few short months ago. The way of the divine is from good to greater good, onward, upward, forward. That's the way of life. That is the flow of life. That's the way of life through humanity. It is the way of life for each one here. And so each one does not return to the old, but is going forward into greater good, greater health, greater safety, greater goodness, greater joy, greater love, and a more wonderful connection with others, far beyond anything they have ever known so far. I am grateful this word is the truth, so I release it to that omnipotent law. It knows how to make it so good. It does it, and so it is. And that's the way it is. And so I thank you for joining me, and I will see you here next week.